The moment she collapsed, the entire restaurant seemed to freeze in time, forks suspended mid-air, conversations cut short, breaths held in silent shock. And in that single heartbeat of chaos, only one man moved. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of ordinary people, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Wisdom Story House. Stories like this remind us what truly matters. It was a bright afternoon, sunlight pouring through the tall glass windows of a cozy downtown restaurant, painting everything in warm gold. The hum of casual conversations and the soft clinking of cutlery created a comforting rhythm. Families laughed, business partners leaned in over deals, and somewhere in the corner, a little girl traced circles on a foggy glass with her tiny finger. At a table near the center sat Rowan Hale, a woman in her mid-30s, dressed in a tailored black blazer. Her posture was straight, her expression focused, but her eyes betrayed exhaustion, the kind that doesn't come from one sleepless night, but from years of carrying more than one heart should bear. She had ordered something light, barely touched it, and kept checking her phone like the world depended on it. Across the room, Rowan Hale sat quietly with his 7-year-old daughter, Alira. He was a single father, a man worn by time but softened by love. His hands, rough from years of physical work, gently helped Alira cut her pancakes into neat little squares. There was something steady about him, something grounded. He wasn't trying to be noticed. He never was. Life had not been kind to Rowan. Years ago, he had lost his wife in a sudden accident, leaving him alone to raise Alira. The grief had hollowed him out, but responsibility filled the emptiness with purpose. Every day was a quiet battle, balancing work, parenting, and the silent ache that never truly left. Still, he showed up. Every day. Rowan suddenly felt it, a tightness in her chest, sharp and unforgiving. At first, she ignored it, brushing it off as stress. But the pressure grew heavier, like invisible hands squeezing the life out of her lungs. Her vision blurred, her fingers trembled, and before she could call for help, her body betrayed her. She collapsed. The plate shattered as it hit the floor, the sound slicing through the restaurant like a warning. Conversation stopped instantly. People turned, eyes wide, unsure. Panic spread, but it came with hesitation, the kind that traps people in uncertainty. Except Rowan didn't hesitate. He stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. His instincts took over, sharper than thought. He rushed toward Rowan, his movements urgent but controlled. Alira watched him go, her small face filled with quiet trust, as if she already knew her father would do what others couldn't. Rowan knelt beside Rowan, checking her pulse with steady fingers. It was faint. Too faint. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. Around them, people whispered, unsure what to do, waiting for someone else to take responsibility. But Rowan had already taken it. Years ago, he had learned CPR during a workplace training session. At the time, it felt routine, something you hoped you'd never need. But now, in this moment, it was everything. He tilted her head carefully, ensuring her airway was clear. His voice cut through the silence, not loud, but firm, commanding attention. Someone had already called emergency services, but time was slipping, and Rowan knew it. He began chest compressions, each push measured, deliberate. The room watched, frozen in a collective breath, as if the entire world had narrowed down to that single moment. Every second stretched, heavy with uncertainty. Alira stood at a distance, her small hands clenched together. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just watched her father, her eyes filled with something deeper than fear, belief. Rowan counted under his breath, his focus unshaken. Sweat formed along his brow, his arms beginning to ache, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Not when a life hung in the balance. And then, just as the silence became unbearable, Rowan gasped. It was sudden, sharp, like air crashing back into a forgotten space. Her body jolted, and a murmur rippled through the room. People exhaled, some covering their mouths, others blinking back tears they didn't realize had formed. Rowan leaned back slightly, watching her carefully. She was breathing now, weak, but present. Alive. The sound of sirens approached in the distance, growing louder, breaking the spell that had settled over the room. But something had already changed. The silence that followed wasn't fear anymore. It was awe. When the paramedics arrived, they took over quickly, assessing Maren and preparing to move her. She was conscious now, though disoriented, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on Rowan. For a brief moment, their gazes locked. There were no words exchanged. None were needed. Gratitude, shock, disbelief, it all existed in that single glance. Rowan gave a small nod, as if to say, "You're okay now." Then he stepped back, letting the professionals do their work. As they carried her out, the room remained silent, watching. Not because they didn't know what to say, but because some moments are too powerful for words. Rowan returned to his table, picking up his fallen chair as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Elira looked up at him, her eyes shining. He smiled at her, a simple, tired smile, and sat down again. But the world around him had shifted. People began to look at him differently, not with curiosity, but with respect. A quiet acknowledgement of what they had just witnessed. The manager approached, offering thanks, but Rowan only nodded politely. He didn't need recognition. That wasn't why he had acted. He had done it because someone needed help. Days passed, and life continued as it always did. Rowan returned to work, Elira to school, and the memory of that afternoon lingered like a soft echo in their lives. But some moments don't fade. They find a way to come back. A week later, Rowan received a letter. It was simple, handwritten, but carefully composed. The name at the bottom read, Maren Vale. She explained that she had suffered a severe cardiac episode, something she had ignored for too long. The doctors told her that if help hadn't arrived when it did, she wouldn't have survived. She thanked him, not just for saving her life, but for reminding her that strangers can still care, that kindness still exists in a world that often feels too busy to notice. She also wrote something else. She wanted to meet him again. At first, Rowan hesitated. His life was already full, already complicated. But something about the letter stayed with him, the sincerity, the vulnerability. It reminded him of something he hadn't felt in a long time, connection. So he agreed. They met at the same restaurant, under the same warm afternoon light. This time, there was no urgency, no fear. Just two people, sitting across from each other, sharing a quiet understanding of how fragile life can be. Maren was different now. Softer, more present. The sharp edge of stress had been replaced by something gentler, a kind of gratitude that reshaped the way she saw the world. Rowan listened as she spoke, really listened, something few people took the time to do. And for the first time in years, he found himself opening up too, not all at once, but enough to let her see who he truly was. What started as a simple meeting became something more over time. Not rushed, not forced. Just two lives slowly intertwining, built on a foundation of trust and something deeper than chance. Elira liked Maren immediately. There was a kindness in her that children recognize instinctively. And Maren, who had once felt so alone despite being surrounded by people, found herself drawn into a life that felt real, grounded, meaningful. The day Rowan saved her life was the day everything changed, not just for her, but for him too. Because sometimes, the most unexpected moments become turning points. The seconds where no one moves, except one person who chooses to act. And that choice can echo far beyond that moment. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still exists. Stories like this deserve to be felt, not just heard. And before we end, here's something special. Comment the word hope if you believe one small act can change someone's entire life. Because in a world that often stands still, waiting, there will always be someone who moves. And sometimes, that someone is you.